Microsoft Teams added a space1 onto the file just because there's multiple copies of it. When you download it, you want to take that off. What we're going to do is we're going to download that file. So you can do the download link, and we'll save it to wherever you're running your example off of, or the coursework off of. So in this case, I'm going to save it into. I'm just going to overwrite my file, this one, and overwrite it with the new data. So it often occurs that data is updated, changed, or corrected. In this case, the changes I've put into the data set here are fixed that's really starting to die. So one of the things was, recall that there were sometimes some extra negative signs, so removed extra negative signs from latitude. So this is just kind of a change log. Decoded PT, TY, ST, and ET. I took a little digging to figure that out, but the T is for typhoon. And I think there was no, we didn't have to do anything with the dates. Yes, the dates were okay actually. Once I played around with it. What's that?
What was the negative extra data in the latitude?
So remember from last, so longitude.
Yeah.
Longitude, it was, there was an extra minus sign in one longitude record.
Okay.
So I reran the data extract, which is a typical thing that happens in the real world, right? Data extracts get rerun. Maybe it's been like a couple months since you last had your data, so you refresh it. Maybe someone from your business intelligence side is like, oh, here's a better way to interpret these values, and so you change your code a little bit. Either way, at some point you're going to want to refresh your data. So that's what we've done. I've gone and I've decoded these things, and I've removed I've corrected some corner cases that we didn't account for in how the longitude was being encoded. And so we've got this new data, well, not new data set, but refreshed data set to work with. So the question is, well, how do we update the data in Tableau without completely deleting the workbook and redoing everything? And has anybody tried this yet, or is this going to be all new for everybody? It's new? Good. Because what I'm about to show you, you want to remember. Because I can't tell you how many times I've torn my hair out trying to figure out how to get the data sets to refresh without deleting the whole workbook, right? And there's just a little bit of back and forthing you have to do with enabling and disabling your extracts, telling it to refresh to live. You want to check your data that it actually works properly, and then re-enabling your extracts. So it's mostly what I'm going to show you is just a bunch of back and forthing you do between setups or between options inside of Tableau. So I'm just going to get my Tableau going, and you can see that this is working with the old data, right? I haven't decoded any of those. Unfortunately, when I was playing around to go through this exercise, I already fixed the longitude in my data set, but it won't be fixed in yours. So in your data set, there'll be a null up here at the top for longitude. And so we're gonna fix this. We're gonna fix the storm decoding. And so this is a extratropical low. This is a typhoon. This is a subtropical typhoon, and this is an extratropical typhoon. So we're going to get that coding in there. And the time already works. That was part of me trying to figure out what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the data source, and I'm going to turn off my extract. I'm going to say, oh, I want to work with the live data. And the next thing I need to do is I need to refresh the data. Now, Tableau's pretty good about having like user interfaces that put like things together so that there's a stream to them. Unfortunately, to refresh your data sources, you have to go up to this button here and you have to say refresh. So it's not, you would think that they put refresh over there where you're clicking, but you have to do this kind of like mental geometry, flip over to the other side. So I'm going to say refresh the database, and it's going to run. And then what I can do is I can switch back to my screens, and I'll check the log. I'll check some of my data, make sure nothing died, and look at that. I've got all the new data, right? Does anybody want to run through this to make sure they can get the latest trouble?
To be in the same folder?
Yes, you have to overwrite the file.
Or we can change the connection, I think.
Yeah, or you can change the connection. That's right. So that's another way to do it. So I could, if I go in and I can change the connection, then what I can do is I can completely break this, right? So I've got my old file here, so I can go in and if I double click on this to open it up, I can drag and drop my old file in, and that'll actually it says, oh, I can overwrite it. And if I go into here, you'll see that this will have a longitude. It breaks everything, right? It doesn't work properly. So I'm going to undo what I did there. But yes, you can go into data and you can say, where's my edit connection? Yeah, it's edit data source. That's right. And you can also do edit data source from this. Oh, is that what? No, that's still broken. I'm gonna just close this real quick and not save that. The problem with breaking things is sometimes you can't unbreak it when you intentionally try to break stuff. So this still has the. So this is back to where I haven't updated the data set. So this is just refreshing the extracts. To edit, you can go in and edit the data source directly. So you can go into her data 2, edit data source, and it just takes me back to the screen. And now what I want to do is I want to turn off again, going through the same step again, just sort of reinforcing it, to update. So I've got a new copy of my CSV file, right? It's kind of like I've rerun my queries and I've got a new data set. I want to get the latest data from that CSV file. I switch to live, and I hit the refresh button, and we're done. And we can go and check that we actually have the decoding in there, and all our decoding done. TY goes to Typhoon. So I can just save this temporarily right now, even though it's to the live. Now, here's the tricky bit. I can switch back to the extract. Now, if I go back to the data as it is, you'll see that it's lost my changes. What's going on here? Well, I've said go back to my data extract file, and my data extract file has not been updated yet, right? So I need to make sure my data extract file is updated. And there's a little tiny gotcha. Up in this right-hand corner, they kind of hide this up here, refresh. And that refresh is not entirely clear. It means refresh the extract. But that's what it means. It means refresh the extract, the hyperfile. And so if we just click on this, it'll take a couple seconds to run. Okay, the extract has been updated. And then I can hit save, and this should prompt me that it's going to create. There it is. So it's going to. The language says create the extract, but really what it's going to do is it's just going to recreate it. It's going to overwrite it. So I'm going to say, yeah, sure, go ahead, create the extract, and it did that really quickly. Oh, there we go. See that little blink there? Oh, refresh. There we go. And create extract.
Yeah.
That time.
Still in progress.
Okay, let's just make sure that, yeah, it's picking it up. Okay, it picked it up. Okay, so we've got, so what we've done is we've managed to refresh our CSV file, and then refresh our extract. So I'm gonna write down the steps here. So first is one, go to the data source. This is terrible. The first step is we're going to go to the data source pane. Got a nice green one to match that. Go to the data source view. That's not better. I don't know why that dried out. All right. So to refresh and extract. One, go to the data source view. Two, disable the extract by switching to live. Three, refresh the live data on the upper left hand icon. And so that's the, which way is the arrow? Oh, I don't have the arrows there. It's something like this. Right, so you've got that icon. Okay, 4, check that it works. It works. So we went back and we checked that in fact it did grab all the fresh storm names, and then we checked the longitude, and the longitude is all corrected. And then we have a working display, and we check the working display, like, okay, well, the working display is still working properly. Like, we can go over here. Still looks like it's displaying good. It's displaying well. So that's good. Optionally save temporarily. Optionally save so far. 6. In the data source, re-enable extract. Enable extract. 7 is then we refresh the extract. And finally 8, we save the extract. Save the extract. So the way this kind of works is like step 0, we have original data. Then we'll have like some form of SQL or CSV or Excel, for example, to name a few things, and that'll go into we'll have Tableau Live. So we've moved it into Tableau Live. So this is sitting in memory. And finally we move the data again into Tableau extract, and this is in an extract file. So
the new updated data should so the name of that particular file should be identical.
yeah,
to
because
the
you're going
original
to
file.
overwrite it, yes.
And but the condition is it should be identical to the original file.
But with the new data in there, you might add new columns. If you delete columns that were used, you'll get red bars.
Yeah. My question is.
Yeah, because they're
let's
deleted
say-
columns that were used before, or no? But you have a red message?
Yeah. Recognize this table. I just saved it on the last.
Okay. So is it, oh, what is it called, V1, V2? Oh, where is it? Her data too, where is it? It's not here. It's not in that list. Oh, there it is, text file. Wonder why. Oh, did you delete it? Did it?
No.
Oh,
I just refresh it and then the.
isn't that happened? Okay.
I saved the new one on the
On
last.
this one? Oh, okay, so it's up a directory. So that's, so we open this. There we go. And, let's. Remove this. Sorry, I'm trying to. I know it doesn't like that. I'm gonna remove this. And I'm gonna move this over to here to overwrite. Not overwriting. Won't let me delete this. Why is that? I just removed this.
The old file. So all my work was.
No, we can, I'll reverse this one and do that. There we go. Do this as well. I'll work with this out after class. There's something weird that happened there.
So
But
it's
the-
coming like this red. I did download your file which
Yeah.
you sent in Teams.
And did you overwrite the old file?
I didn't know. Can you tell me how I did it?
So there's the new
This one,
file.
but
Yeah.
I put it here.
Yeah, it should work. Let's see. Okay, those are all there. Oh. It's now got two, oh. Oh, yeah, I see what I see what
I
happened.
didn't delete the.
You didn't delete the old one, and so it's,
how-
well, what we can do is we can back out of this. There, all the red things are gone, right? Let's just make sure. Nope.
Because it's the because I put my file which I downloaded from MS Word here.
Yeah. Reverse. Oh. No, reverse that.
Oh.
There, you're back.
Yeah. So now what is it?
Yep. So here are your data sources. There's HERDAT2. So the intention of this was to completely replace this file. So,
Okay.
so in your file system,
You
you
delete this?
yeah, or replace it, overwrite it. So the typical scenario that we do this scenario is overwriting overwriting the source file, right? So this is what we're going to do is we're going to copy the new file on top of and have the exact same name. And if you start to play around with changing the name, it's very easy to get all sorts of weird errors popping up where it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work well. For example, when I tried to replace the data set by simply dragging over my old data set, because there were columns that didn't work anymore in the old data set, it broke everything, right? So the scenario that we're talking about here is when we're going to overwrite the existing Excel file, CSV file, JSON file, it could be a shape file, and we're simply overwriting it with new data. And so the idea is after we've overwritten that file, the question is how do we get the new data into Tableau? And the answer is, and I can put in, what we'll do is I'll put in the extra step here that we were missing. So we're going to say overwrite the old file. So this could be CSV, JSON, Excel, and then this is our updated source. And we could use SQL to extract that, or any other Python. So it's kind of critical to practice, even though these seem kind of like, it's pretty mindless work, right? You're not analyzing any data, you're not making any visuals. Because source data changes, it's important to be able to do this updating seamlessly, right? Or you'll end up losing hours of your life trying to get your data updated. Now, the other proviso with this is that live may not be to a file. Live might be to a database. And so what this allows you to do is by switching to live and then hitting that refresh button, what it will do is it'll go back to the database. And so you can imagine skipping this whole overwriting the file. It'll go back to the original database, rerun whatever queries that you've written inside of Tableau to grab the new data out, and we'll store it in memory. And then what you do is you switch back to the extract, and it'll store that snapshot. So, and snapshot is the key word. This is like an important concept to realize. Tableau works with snapshots of the data. So, and what this means is you need to explicitly refresh data even in live. Okay, so this is like really important. Once you start working with Tableau and connecting live to databases, live only kind of means live. What live means is you're allowed to go to the database, run a query, and bring some data back, but it doesn't mean it's always like going back and forth. The only time Tableau will actually go back to your database and rerun a query is if you've gone into your source query and changed it and actually said it has to be different. Now there are some caveats to that. Particular types of Salesforce databases and some of the I think like the big Salesforce databases and some of the big HR databases, there is some level of live connection where you can connect to certain reporting tables, and Tableau will sort of be dynamically rewriting queries. So the other place that if you're connected to a live database, that you can get Tableau to redo things. And it's grayed out right now because we're connected to a file. And actually, I'll switch this to live so that becomes ungrayed out. Go back to data source. So I'm going to switch back to live temporarily and go up here. Oh, it's still grayed out because it's a CSV file. Okay, if you were connected live to an SQL database, like an Oracle database or a Postgres, you can use this. You can use this refresh button up there. So that button that the pointer's over to force Tableau to go back to your source database, rerun the queries that grab the data for your visual, and grab new data and update it. So we have two other buttons here. The plus sign and the equal sign. The plus sign is add new data sources. This sign here is a pause. And what the pause does is this. So this is the bit that's not 100% clear unless someone tells you it. The refresh button is about going to an external database, right? The pause button is about how Tableau works with the data that it has sitting in its own memory. So the pause is about not refreshing this screen while you're editing it. So you use this pause button if you're gonna, say you're gonna break your visual, you're gonna break it because you have to change some columns and rows around, or you have to change some filtering. It's gonna break for a little while, and you don't want to see all those breaks show up. A classic example of this is if I go into, if I want to drop measure names and measure values on here, but I don't remember how whenever I drop measure names and measure values, it just puts hundreds of measures in there, and it's really, really ugly, right? So I can actually say, pause this. So we're going to hit pause. So you can see that's turned to a play arrow, meaning the next time I hit the button, it'll be play. And now I can drag and drop things around. So I can say, make all my rows measure names, make the values in here text, and you can see it hasn't updated anything. And then maybe I want to put the basin name up here. Notice it hasn't updated the sheet at all, right? This has not changed. To get this sheet to update, I have to hit the play button up there. And yeah, I can actually update the worksheet as well. So you can hit the play button to resume updates, and there it updated all the data. So pausing the updates is really handy if you don't want to deal with a bunch of distracting like red boxes saying, there's errors on there, or if you wanted to go in and edit these measure values before it actually displays, so that you could take care of that. Now I know a few of you do have workbooks that broke, and I'll help you with that. What I'll do is I'll end class at 4:45, and I can help you with that for about 15 minutes. But any questions about this overall idea of going to the data pane, disabling your live extracts, switching to live, refreshing on the left-hand side, switching back to extract, refreshing on the right-hand side, and then saving everything off? You're all good with that? I promise you, this will save you a lot of headaches in the long run. All right. Should we get on to making some visuals, making some pretty graphics? Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to pull up. Okay, so I'm just going to reinforce one thing. When I said about overwriting the old file, I have this file here, and I simply overwrote that file with with a new data set. So I didn't allow the name to change or anything like that. So I'm going to open up my old workbook, just so I can follow along with what I've been able to develop before. And yeah, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build an animated track of storms. So we're going to build this visual that does an animated track of storms in a given year. So we're going to reuse some of the components that we already put together, like filtering by the season year, but we're going to put in a new animation. And the other little bit that I want to show you guys, because it's a neat little thing to do, is pop up. So if I pause this, it's a little bit easier to see. Little pop-up diagrams called spark graphs or context visuals. So I'm going to run you through how to set those up. They're actually not too bad to set up. You just need someone to point where to go. So let's get started again. We can switch over to. I'm going to switch back to here, and we're going to create this, and we're going to rename it animated storms. And let's just review. We've got our filters, our seasons, year season filter. So let's move that over. Storm season. And oh, here, actually, what I'll do is I'll pause my auto updates and pull my storm year over. Yeah, sure, that's fine. And now I'm going to show the filter. I'm going to change this to a discrete filter. Yes. Okay, there are no values on there. Oh. And I'm going to, why did that? I'll resume up to this. Show filter. And let's edit the values to be, I'm going to make it a slider list again. And I'm going to, let's edit I'm going to just quickly edit this. And done, and I'll just pick the first one, apply, to start with. And I'm just going to clean up go through the same customization and cleanup we did before. Don't show me all the buttons. I don't want all the extra buttons. Don't need the control types. Don't need the include and exclude button, and I just don't need the search button. Okay, so now we have all the storms, or we have all the seasons laid out. The next thing we need is the actual longitude and latitude. So we're going to put our longitude and latitude. And how do we do that? We have these as dimensions. So I'm going to change the longitude and latitude into a dimension. And I'm going to change the average latitude into a dimension. There we go. And just do a quick scroll through to make sure that these look okay. The next thing is, let's see. This is where I need my second workbook to remember how I did this. I did it by shape. That's how I did it. Oops. So the next thing is I'm going to force this to just be a shape. Okay. And I'm going to choose a shape. So I'm going to choose a shape, and I can say more shapes. And there's a weather shape. And I've got a few different options. I believe I picked the blue one and hit apply and OK. And you can see I've got all these little blue shapes here. I should be able to adjust the size. Nope. Oh, here it is. I can adjust the size of this, so I can make it a little bigger. So that's not bad. That's a starting point. The next bit is we're going to work on getting the animation to work. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we can distinguish between individual storms. So I'm going to drag the storm identifier over as a detail. So storms are identifiable, and it would also be nice to have the storm name, so I'm going to drop that into the tooltip. So now if I look over that, we've got some of these storms aren't named, oh, because it's 1926. Let's go into the 80s. There we go, we've got lots of storm names in there. Some of them are unnamed. Chris, Beryl, oh yeah, Beryl. There we go. All right, so we've got a number of storms here. Now notice we aren't doing this as a line, right? The path intensity one, these were lines. We're going to get the lines to show up using the animation. So just checking my progress to see how we've got storm name and identifier, and then now all we need to do is put the animation in. All right, so we're going to use our pages again to do our animation. But before I do that, I'm just going to temporarily turn off. I'm going to say format the animations, and I'm just going to make sure the animations are turned off for now. And then I can play around with whether I want them turned on or not. So I'm going to take the observed date into the pages, and I'm going to make it the exact date. There we go. And now I'll just play with the slider to see what things do. Oh, look at that, things move around. And the next part, before I get into like whether or not I want to animate this and what the effect of turning animations on and off are, we need a line, right? We want some nice lines to show up behind this. So what we do is we say, go ahead and show the history, and show it for all our points so far. And you'll notice that it's, and I'm going to say don't fade anything. Now, let's slide back in the season, right? So here's the beginning of the season, and I'm going to slide this forward. That's not a line here, right? That's just the points being shown over and over again. So what we can do is we can say, just show the trails. Don't show, so right now it's just showing the marks, right? These are individual marks. So I can do both trails and marks, and now there's a line in there. I can say just trails, just the trails. And if I do just trails, what it'll do is it'll show me only the mark that's currently visible. And there's only, what this means is that all these other ones are storms that I've already done, right? These are storms that have finished, and this is my currently active storm. So the way I got those trails to show up nice and in sort of classic Tableau orange is I went into Format, and I just picked the color, classic Tableau orange. And then the next thing you can do is you can like play with the thicknesses, make them a little thicker. And finally, we can just scroll this back and forth to take a look at how this works. Set the animation speed. So these three, set the animation speed. I can set it to fast. And hit play. Oops, come on. Oops, hit play. There we go. See it moving around. That's okay. Looks good. So I'm going to pause this. And let's take a look at what happens when I turn on animations. So what Tableau animations, what Tableau is doing right now is it's just doing like an image swap. It's showing an image and then a new image and then a new image. Tableau animations are a tiny bit more CPU intensive, but what they do is they provide some interpolation to make things sort of roll smoothly, right? So you get some nice cross. Basically think of it as the crossfader on your audio system. By turning on animations for all the sheets or just this particular sheet, it's like turning the crossfader on your audio tracks, right? You're creating a crossfade between sequential images. So we'll turn this on and see what happens. and start back at the beginning. And this is actually, that's not bad. So the reason why I'm showing this is under, I don't know if it's a bug or just like a missing bit of documentation. Under certain data sets, turning on the animation, the trails won't show. It just won't show at all. It'll show the dots moving around, but it won't show the trails. Fortunately, we got lucky this time. The animations are working pretty well. And if you look, you can watch briefly, there's kind of like a smooth fade in and fade out, and that's just the animations taking effect. Everyone have success getting an animated storm map going?
Can you show again how you got the orange trailer?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's change the color of it. So you go into Show History, and you can see there's a thing called Trails for formatting the trails. And let's turn it into green. There we go. Or we could make them gray. Or light gray. Oh, that's actually kind of nice. That's not bad.
So how did we implement the cloud here?
The cloud is by choosing. So I've got the mark type. If I turn the mark type to circle, it's now a circle moving around. That's kind of boring. So what I did is I said, make the mark type an arbitrary shape. And then you can see there's a shape thing in there. I can drag, I can pick arbitrary shapes. The other thing I can do is I can, for example, I could drag base and code, actually, or I could drag base and name into shapes. And then I can edit the shapes. It's stuck. Okay, that's annoying. It's not showing the. I know there's three shapes there, so I just need a season. I just need a season where I have all three shapes there. Come on, there's got to be one season where I have all of them.
So in assigned palette, there is something like for the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
So what I can do is I can go and edit the shapes. So I can say, oh, I want the Atlantic
Last one.
to be weather, and I'll make the Atlantic black, and I'll make the East Pacific weather, and I'll make it blue, like this. And say apply, okay. And let's see if I can find, there's got to be a season where, oh, this one. Oh, and oh, perfect. I found one with Central Pacific in there too. So let's edit the shapes and pick a different, what should we pick for the Central Pacific? Maybe, how about an umbrella? Central Pacific, make it an umbrella, apply. All right. So now we can run our storm tracks forward. So you can see this, the Central Pacific, you have a Central Pacific storm track over here. Notice the trails disappeared. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes they can come and go when animations are turned on. So I'll hit play again. Nope, it's still missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and format animations and turn them off on this sheet. Come on. Why is it not showing the whole history? I wonder if it's because of the basing. If I take the basing name away, will it show the whole history? Interesting. Okay, so format animations. Turn these back on again. Where did my history go? weird. So there's something that needs to be, there's something in the older years that I need to look up for why it's breaking the history. So if I go into these older years, and I do this, oh, now that it's back again. That's so weird. Now if I bring the basin name back in, let's see if it breaks that. Nope, it's happy to keep it. There we go. And the animations are back on. So this is the one caveat when working with Tableau animations and Tableau pages, is there is a certain amount of futzing that happens. For whatever reason, Tableau kind of like, it's almost like it loses its place in the animations. It kind of loses track of what it's doing. And every so often you just kind of have to go back and forth a couple times to get things to work properly. See, now it's back to working properly again. I can hit the animations and just let it run. And oh, it's running pretty slow. You can see it's displaying the date and time. We can edit that to the year, but that's good enough, right? So we're just got a sense of what's going on. You can see there are 2 storms in the basin right now. So the next thing, the next clever little bit that I did, I'm going to save this progress so far, because it actually works, is I've got these pop-up graphs where I've got a graph of the intensity. So, and I've created this sheet called embed intensity. So the way this works is in our, what's this sheet? Let's keep that. Okay, delete this sheet. The way this works is in our tooltip, I can actually insert other sheets. So I can insert, okay, so how did I get to that screen? I did that a little quick. Under editing tooltip, so I click on the tooltip. So I can edit this tooltip to be anything I want. And including, I can insert context relevant fields and data. So some of the things that I can insert into here are the latitude, the longitude, the full name of the user's name. I can insert the page name, which would be the date, for example. You can see it's got the storm name in there as an attribute. I can insert that. I can put in like the whole workbook and sheet name. But more importantly, I can actually put in images of sheets here. So what I want is a sheet that displays the time, the status over time of the particular storm. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to create a new sheet. I'm going to just call it, rename as embed intensity. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put in the observed time as the columns, and I'm going to make it the exact time. And for now, I'm just going to filter on the storm identifier. I'm going to take that filter away eventually. So I'll pick some more recent Atlantic storm. Here we go. Oh, that's 1819. That's 1978. Here we go. I'll pick 3 storms, so we can take a look at them. Apply. Okay. Actually, I'll just pick 1 storm. Pick 1 storm, 1 recent storm. Apply. So I've got a bunch of observations for that storm, and what we'll get around to is simplifying this sheet down. So for now, what do we need? Well, let's put the maximum wind speed as, and I can make that an attribute. So we've got the maximum wind speed as a as the rows, as the y-axis, and I'm just going to check to see that that's actually close to the way I did that. Oh no, I made that a dimension. That's fine to make a dimension. And then I made the size an attribute. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to use 2 dimensions past each other, using both as dimensions, and I'm going to say, go ahead and make this a line. Oh, that's fine. That works the way I want. Now, the first thing I did is I made the size of this equal to the wind speed to correspond to the paths and intensity here, right? I made the size equal to the wind speed, and I'm going to make the color equal to the pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the maximum wind speed and set the size to attribute of maximum wind speed. Here we go. I'm going to do some editing to make sure that it matches. So with the maximum knots, edit sizes, and we had it from 0 and 20 to 200 here, so we'll do the same thing here. We'll edit sizes. We'll do 20 to 200 to make it standardized. We'll start from 0. And the idea is we're trying to get this to match what we have already. So I'm going to make this big enough so that at 200 it doesn't get any bigger. Apply that. I made everything a little bit smaller, which is fine. And then finally I want the coloring in here to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the minimum pressure and make it the color. I'm going to change that to an attribute again. No, minimum pressure, turn to an attribute please. And I'm going to edit these colors, and let's just check what we used before for these edit colors. And we used the range 850 to 1050, and that was it. Right? So we go in, make this viridis, edit colors, pick a viridis color scheme, and we use the advanced settings to change the start to 850, 50, and choose the end to 1050. And then at this point we go, but wait a minute, I forgot to handle nulls. So we need to handle the nulls nicely in the pressure, right? We don't have any nulls in wind speed. Wind speed always works, but we do have nulls in pressure. So we're going to go back into our if null. So I'm going to type if null, and I believe I set our pressure to our default pressure. So I said if null, comma, default pressure. There we go. Enter. That's fixed, and I could even display this just as a reminder that we're using it. Show parameter control, and maybe I'll set the default pressure to 1000. All right, save the progress so far. Now, here's where we can insert it. We go into tooltips. I'm going to delete everything that's in there now. And I'm going to insert a sheet, and I've named it a nice handy name. I've called it embed. So I'm going to say embed the intensity.